Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Where you're joining us from, or what time you'll be watching this. Yes, we are here today to have Dr. Olori Boye-Ajayi's session on our central theme for our TAAS Symposium this year, real-time challenges dealing with intracontinental trade. And she has a very God, interesting topic because it has to do with the mindset Africa has when it comes to trading amongst themselves. But before we begin, like it's our culture here, we're going to start with a word of prayer. So please join me for a short prayer. Our Father and our God, we thank you. Ancient of days, we worship you. I am that I am with you. Lord, we thank you for today that you have made. Lord, we ask that you speak to the speaker. We ask, Lord, that you give her wisdom like never before in the name of Jesus. And for Lord, the participants and people that will watch this, they would always get something different, something that they can work with, Lord Jesus. We ask, Lord, that it's easy for them to understand, Lord, in Jesus' name. At the end of the day, let your name and your name be glorified. In Jesus' name, we have prayed. Amen
Amen.
and
Amen.
amen. So before we begin, we want to thank our sponsors for this event. We have three beautiful sponsors. We are saying a very big thank you because if not for them, this event would not have been possible. We have the Borderless Trade Network, a gender and trade advocacy network that collaborates with key players in the trade and investment space to boost and increase the participation of women in trade and investment. We have AfCFTA Dialogues, a Pan-African initiative committed to advancing awareness, understanding, and the successful implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area. We also have Africa Trade Solutions Consulting, a premier consulting firm dedicated to transforming Africa's economic landscape through expertise in international trade, regional integration, and sustainable inclusion. We also have our partner Innovation Solutions, a PR and marketing firm that helps businesses boost brand visibility, perception, and sales. We are saying a very big thank you for partnering with us, for sponsoring us to make this a reality, right? Without you, it would not have been possible. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest. I was looking at her bio and I was like, wow. We've known Dr. Olori since 2021 when TAAS started. And she's
Yes.
family. I've loved her so much. I will say that since then she has done a lot. That's to tell you that our faculty members, people we bring to you are people that are really in it for the long run. And we are so proud of you. It's so good to have you here. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Ma. I'm going to quickly read her bio. Dr. Olori Boye-Ajayi is a visionary leader and catalyst for change, dedicated to driving Africa's trade transformation and empowering women across the continent. With almost 15 years of experience in trade and investment, women empowerment, and sustainable development, she has established herself as a thought leader and expert in Africa's structural transformation strategy. She is an author and a current student of the prestigious Barvatnik School of Government at the University of Oxford, pursuing a public policy program. Dr. Olori is currently a member of the working group Affected Trade and Industrial Development Advisory Council and serves as a board member for Made in Nigeria Export Commodities Export. In addition to her strategic insights, she has successfully secured funding and trade finance exceeding $1 million for women in the export community and facilitated exports to Australia, the US, and the United Kingdom. Dr. Olori's impact extends beyond her advisory roles. In recognition of her outstanding contributions to women's empowerment and trade development across the continent, she was also recognized as an honoree in the Excellence in Trade and Investment category at the African Achievers Award 2023, which was held at the Palace of Westminster, House of Parliament, UK. She was also a finalist for the 30 Leading Women in Africa's Supply Chain Industry in 2023. She has been a facilitator, mentor, and project partner with the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs, a White House initiative to enhance the economic and development of female entrepreneurs from 2019 to 2022. In 2021, she was appointed by the Honorable Commissioner of Trade and Investment of Vanuatu to Nigeria and South Africa to execute the Women in Investment WinHub program. Dr. Olori's influence extends to academia, where she served as a guest lecturer at Lagos Business School, teaching the executive MBA class on international trade topics from 2018 to 2022. Her achievement also includes being the first female ambassador for Afrinbank Manassas Ambassador in Nigeria in 2021 and earning a place in the Top 100 Inspiring Women in Africa Award by Leading Ladies Africa in 2021 and 2023. One of Dr. Olori's key strengths is the ability to drive inclusive growth by leveraging tech and simplifying programs processes. Her commitment to gender-focused programs and training for entrepreneurs, supported by her tech-driven solutions, ensures maximum impact and scalability. She has successfully collaborated with multilateral organizations that focus on diversity, inclusion, and gender equality, making her a sought-after consultant in these areas. Throughout her career, Dr. Olori has made significant contributions to trade facilitation and economic growth. As the managing director of Borderless Trade, she spearheaded empowerment and trade facilitation programs for thousands of women entrepreneurs. Passionate about empowering women in business, she founded the Borderless Trade Network in Nigeria and Liberia, establishing a network of women across various industries. Through strategic partnership, she has delivered impactful workshops, seminars, and capacity building programs, making a significant impact on this woman. Her initiatives has fostered collaboration, networking, and support among women, leading to the achievement of their business goals. With her remarkable expertise, strategic insight, and commitment to Africa's growth, Dr. Olori consults and advises international development institutions and multilateral organizations on their trade development initiatives. Her passion for Africa, dedication to women empowerment, and ability to
my dear sister, fellow comrade, a true, I like to call her, she's a firecracker. I love the way her mind works and how the Lord is using her mind to redesign and reshape Africa in how we raise entrepreneurs and how we do business with each other. And how all of this sort of, it ties in beautifully with the kingdom agenda. And I want to say a massive thank you. Every year when I'm called upon as a faculty member, I thank God that I said yes back in 2021 when all this started as a seed. And to see the way it's blossoming is just incredibly amazing to me. And I want to say big congratulations to everyone today who is in the class, in this room, in this cohort. You are in the right association. You know how like there are clubs and associations where you hear of like 100 years later, like Ikoyi Club, or you hear of ones like Igbobi College Boys, schools that they've been around for like 100 years, 120 years, King's College, all those places, right? I strongly believe that TAAS is building a legacy that is something you should be proud of, that you are either attending today or you are even a staff, somebody who is a part of the TAAS, workforce, should I say. So, ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that Africa is sitting on a 3.4 trillion opportunity, and we are barely scratching the surface? And And in this session, today, we're not just talking about trade. We're talking about revolutionizing how an entire continent does business. So you can see that you are in the right room, right? We'll journey from the fundamentals of trade. Okay, so let's start from ground zero, like what is trade, to explaining what it's not, because a lot of people think trade is something that is ancient, but really it's very much what you do on a daily basis. It's just that the means of trade has changed. Then we look at the game-changing power. Notice the choice of words, game-changing power of intracontinental, meaning trade that is done within this continent of Africa, and how that is reshaping Africa's economic destiny. Most of all, I'm going to finish off my session with something that is a gift from me to you. It took me so long to put this together. I probably spent the most of my day yesterday outlining how you can begin within the next 24 hours. Like by this time tomorrow, you can start putting your digital like digital infrastructure in place. Some of you have some of these things. For others, it will be the first time you're hearing about this, but whichever one, it's okay. All right. But that will be at the end of my session with you. So you might want to get your pen and paper out, because I'm going to draw your roadmap, benefiting from this intra-continental trade. Okay. Before we dive into continental transformation, let's establish the foundation first. Trade isn't just about buying and selling, like I said earlier, it's the fundamental engine that has driven human civilization forward. What do I mean? So every smartphone in your pocket, every cup of coffee, every dress you buy, every game you are buying, every music you stream, every innovation that improves your life exists because of trade. So trade is a core component to human existence. It's how you have existed, because if you didn't buy food today, how would you live? So people need to understand that trade is beyond buying and selling. It is what is an engine room that has driven us as human beings till today. It's about creating value, accessing markets, and building relationships that multiply prosperity for everyone involved. That, to me, is my foundation and my definition of trade. That it's about creating value, accessing markets, and building relationships that multiply prosperity for everybody involved. In that this mobile phone, as you are selling it, the person who made it for you, you are creating you are creating jobs for them. The person who delivered it to your client, you are creating jobs for that person. The platform you used in collecting your money is an infrastructure that enables you to do trade. Do you see? So you are part of like a crazy, massive system that is also providing prosperity for everyone involved in that chain. Now, that is what I need you to understand about trade. Don't worry about any other thing you are hearing outside. Trade at its core is about creating value, accessing markets, building relationships that multiply prosperity for everyone involved. All right, let's go. Here's where it gets interesting. You will hear things like intercontinental trade, and you hear things like intracontinental trade. So we have two distinct trade approaches when it comes to how transactions are done or how commerce is done. So let's look at the first one, intracontinental. Of course, by saying intra, we know that it means within. So intercontinental trade is like trading with your neighbor. This person like is your next door neighbor. You are trading with one another. You understand each other. You face similar challenges. You can move goods quickly because they are your neighbor and sometimes cheaply. Okay, so that's intracontinental trade. It is you trading with your neighbors. Okay, for intercontinental trade, it's like trading with distant relatives. It's valuable, but more complex, more risky, and definitely more expensive. The magic happens when you, as an African entrepreneur, you can master both. And today, my plan is that we'll focus on the untapped gold mine. Like I said, that is 3.4 trillion US dollars that is right here on our continent. My question to you today is how much of that is your money? Write that question down. How much of this untapped gold mine is my money? 3.4 trillion. You can't spend it in 3-4 lifetimes. What will you be buying? Right? So in this dispensation, with your current business, or maybe by the end of this, you see that your existing business might need to be either uh, you pivot or you decide by the end of this. But in order for you to do trade intra or intercontinental level, there is a mindset revolution for intracontinental trade. Intracontinental trade. Now let's go from old thinking to the new way that you must look at the neighbors. Remember the neighbors analogy that I used, all right? So the old thinking is I have to protect, we protect our market from neighbors. In some sides of the West, they are doing this. We call it protectionism, when you are protecting your market from neighbors. But the real way to think about intracontinental trade is let's grow together as strategic partners. And you see where all of this ties in as we go along. The old way of thinking is let us sell raw materials abroad. So that's where you see people, for example, who are selling cocoa to some parts in the Nordic regions. And the Nordic guys are now selling it back to us as chocolate. The new way of thinking about intracontinental trade is you add value through regional chains. So rather than you sending that cocoa in the raw form, why don't you add value to it within the region and then export it to your neighbors? Number 3, compete with African countries. The new way of thinking is this: collaborate for continental strength. So if you have somebody in Ghana, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Burundi, who may have a similar advantage that you have, but you don't have enough. And cocoa is a fantastic one. One of my friends, I lived in Liberia. In fact, when we started TAAS back then in 2021, I was still living in Liberia at the time. And I remember that my friend then, she was a mayor of one of their regions there within the country. She had a cocoa farm, and she was telling me how she's positioning for this intracontinental trade as well as intercontinental trade. And how was she doing that? She started the cocoa farm, just got something small. And she said that she knows that within the 4 years, when this AfCFTA, the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, when it kicks off and starts to really spiral, she can serve the region. Can you see? So somebody like her when she wants to serve the intercontinental market, she can now look for another cocoa farmer, whether Sierra Leone is one of their closest neighbors. She can look for somebody in Sierra Leone to serve the intercontinental market. So the new way of thinking and the mindset I want you to have as an African entrepreneur is collaborate for continental strength. And then the final way is focusing on distant markets first, right? The old way is that, send it to the UK, send it to America, send it to China, send it to Netherlands. Well, the new way of thinking as an entrepreneur in Africa today should be master your backyard, then conquer globally. Master your backyard, then conquer globally. The reason for this is this. And I know, look, I'm going to get into all the challenges. Don't worry. I can see you probably rolling your eyes and saying, it's cheaper for me to send my goods to the EU region than for me to send it to my neighbors. I hear you. But there's a way I'm going to teach you that will help you. The mindset shift, guys, look, it is required for intra-continental trade success. All right. You need to understand fundamentally that we must fundamentally rewire how we think about our neighbors. So instead of seeing Ghana, instead of seeing Kenya or South Africa as competitors, we must see them as pieces of the same puzzle, each one bringing their unique strength that make the whole stronger than the sum of its parts. Very critical, guys. Now, you may ask, okay, so what is the effect of us doing business together as, a continent? The effects of intra-continental trade on African economies, they're already showing positive results. Just 2 days ago, and then on Sunday last week, Sunday was the 25th of May, I believe, we saw a new trade corridor that was opened between Nigeria and some eastern regions. And I'm going to show you a powerful tool, guys. I'm really wanting this to be a practical session. I don't want it to be theory. So I'm also going to show you which countries you can serve and which products some regions in Africa need that you might have. Does that sound good? Let's go. So I'll try and hurry up and be a bit faster. So as I said, we're already seeing positive results. We're seeing that the bilateral trade between some of our, economies is looking good. Because if a trade corridor is open, it means that logistically, I can start to think of how I can service the countries within that region. So Uganda Airlines has just recently dropped its shipping cost to about by 50%. So for example, I even heard that there was a particular consignment that was $1,000 before, but because of the AfCFTA that now mandates countries to lower all the trade barriers, including cost of shipping, even the cost of even customs charges, all those things, that person eventually paid $250 or something like that. You can imagine that's almost 75%, guys. So you can see that there is actually going to be a huge benefit for you to trade with Ugandan companies and other regional blocks once you hear things like this. Because most times why we don't send goods to our neighbors is because of cost. It's too high or it takes too long. But with Uganda Airlines, you are talking 5 hours. I was in Uganda just last week, precisely last week Monday. And I see that the nation and the economy as a whole is wanting to do business with West Africa. So when I came back and by like 5 days later, the Honorable Minister of Trade for Nigeria, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, mentioned this development, and you see UNDP and these other agencies, everybody is coming together because really what was also lacking was harmonization. I tell people that they talk about infrastructure like road, rail, they talk about payment systems and all those things. But one of the critical infrastructure that Africa is now building, and you must also have as a new way of thinking, is trust. Trust is an infrastructure in trade. It is. Okay, so we are seeing measurable GDP growth in countries, like I said, that have embraced this regional trade agreements and the Continental Free Trade Agreement as well. There is estimation that the AfCFTA will boost intra-Africa trade by 52%. Currently, we're at roughly 18% by 2030. Now, let's look at what this agreement means for you directly. Now, I'm narrowing down the funnel. I started very high level, and I want to start bringing it down to you so you can understand how to position, how to expand, and how to attract. In terms of the intra-Africa continental free trade area, what it does is that it gives you as an African business owner access to a massive consumer base. This market expansion allows companies like yourself to achieve economies of scale while reducing your dependence on external markets. We saw that during COVID, during the pandemic, countries with very strong intra-continental trade networks, they showed greater economic resilience because they were within themselves. They didn't have to rely on importing. They were just going to their neighbors and taking what was necessary because, you know, a lot of logistics and the supply value chain was disrupted because of COVID. But if my neighbor has what I need, why am I going all the way or depending, should I say, on my neighbor? So that is one of the benefits you can look at. You're going to have, if you like, that expanded consumer base. So maybe in Nigeria, you have 10,000 clients who sign up for your digital product. The ECOWAS region, because you know that Africa it also has regional blocks. So we have ECOWAS for the West Africa region. I think we have 15 or 16 member states. Then you also have COMESA, SADC, you have the EAC, all these other regional blocks. So we call them regional blocks. These blocks grouped the continent according to people's region. So the West African nations are called ECOWAS. The ones in South Africa is called SADC, South Africa Development something. I can't remember their full acronym. So each area has its own. East Africa too has its own, okay? What we're saying here is that once you as a business adopt the mindset that I'm going to start serving my continent, you can now tap into those other those regional blocks, okay? So what we're seeing now, because of this, of the AfCFTA, right, intra-continental trade, we're seeing local production expansion. And what that means is that countries are moving beyond raw material exports to manufacturing capabilities. Yes, we have a very long way to go. Manufacturing is not our strong suit as a continent, but we are seeing that there's more that's being done. You have the Pan-African Manufacturers Association that was recently, I think maybe PAMA is about a year or 18 months, which is the coalition of all manufacturers across the continent who are also positioning for the AfCFTA, and you can join PAMA. Just go on Google, look for how to join them if you are in the manufacturing space or your business is directly affected by manufacturing, you can definitely join them. Just PAMA, Pan-African Manufacturers Association. So what we're seeing is that agricultural value chains are becoming more sophisticated. You're seeing the advent of greenhouses. You're seeing the advent of solar farms. So many innovations are coming up with countries specializing in different stages of production and processing. And that's a new development because we're witnessing a very significant industrial transformation because of of the AfCFTA. Now, we've also seen transformation in service sector. So for those of you who have services in tech, logistics, finance, we're seeing a lot of transformation in those areas. We're seeing a lot of transformation in innovation hubs. So a lot of cross-border knowledge sharing is happening. I've been on a particular program where the implementing partners brought me on board, and I'm servicing through this organization thousands of businesses in Ghana and very close by to us as well, other regions, through through these innovation hubs, okay? Like I said, we're seeing a lot of transformation in the agriculture value chains. So a lot of people are moving from farm to processed goods. Let me hurry up. We see also that we need improvement. So like I said, I know I'm gonna get one or two of you that are saying, Ma, Africa has problems. I know, but you are the solution. So here are some opportunities within this AfCFTA that I want you to look at in case you are wondering, okay, so where are the opportunities? Maybe you want to change lanes, like I said, into another sector. You can consider the following areas because these are the infrastructural developments that are needed and they are critical improvements that are still needed on the continent. Transportation networks. If you feel like you are somebody who can pull together the stakeholders needed, by all means, start looking into the transportation networks, particularly road, port, railway. I know of a friend of mine, they are into port rehabilitation. Okay, so you see that a lot of Chinese companies want to fund and back those kind of network related, when I say network, I mean logistics now, value chain driven conversations, all right? So if you have that plug, it's a fantastic opportunity rather than a challenge. Another one is digital connectivity, internet, mobile infrastructure. Yes, we are currently at about over 50% mobile penetration. In some regions, it's as high as 70% mobile penetration, but internet penetration is still low. So some of you can also look at bringing in investment, bringing in opportunities to position for this particular challenge. The third one I would say is financial systems. Yes, we have the common ones that are providing a lot of financial products, whether for the supply side or the demand side. They are coming up with payment platforms and banking, because a lot of the reasons why Africa is still at 3% contribution to global trade is because most of our entrepreneurs are unbanked. We are still in the informal way of doing business. So if you're not unbanked, how can you transact with another company? Then if you are not transacting on that level, you are not considered a formal, business person, all right? So there's a lot of opportunity in the financial systems. Those of you who are already trying to look for ways of collecting your money from other African nations, maybe you supply, or maybe you're a service provider, you can look at PAPS, the Pan-African Payment Settlement System, which has been rolled out for the last maybe 2 to 3 years, or even 4 years even, but in terms of penetrating the markets, PAPS is just rising to that reliable form of payment acceptance, because that's one of the ways you can trade. If you don't have strong digital capabilities, you honestly cannot do business. So there's a lot of opportunity in the financial systems. Please, it's not on my slides, but these are just some of the things that are coming to me, and it's important. Then another big one is energy cooperation, power sharing, renewable energy. Intracontinental trade is driven by infrastructural development. That's the truth. The need to move goods efficiently across borders not only has this accelerated investment in transportation networks, but like I said, we need more and more investments in these other areas. I don't want to dwell on the negatives because, like I said, I've turned them into opportunities. So if any of you here want to, look at the gaps where we can get more investment, those are some of the areas. Of course, the future looks promising. Economic projections show that full implementation of the AfCFTA, like I said, could add about 3.4 trillion to Africa GDP by 2030. So we're not just talking about marginal improvements of just a tiny drop here. It's a real transformational change for us as a continent. Now, I want to go to a very important part that you have to be a part of. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm going to help you look at the quickest ways, guys, the quickest ways that you can also join the wagon. The mindset to approach intracontinental trade starts with where you are. Number one. So here's where I'm getting practical. I'm giving you all the high level stuff, but let's get, because I only have about 15 or 20 minutes left. So I want to use my last 20 minutes to really drive this home as how you can begin to position for intracontinental trade. Number one, start where you are. What does that mean? It means you have to start building regional expertise. I'm using all this big grammar, but don't worry, just flow with me for a second. Build regional expertise before going global. I said that already. You need to understand African consumer behavior and preferences, understand how you can learn this. So like I said, I was in Uganda last week and I realized that they are very different to us. We, as a people, they are so chilled. And it's not even just chilled approach. I think even for some of their acceleration in economic development or development areas, should I say, I found out that they have so much potential in agriculture because their country is not lacking in food, right? But I was looking forward to seeing some very innovative farms and things like that, but they are not there yet. So what does that tell me? It means that if I'm thinking of satisfying a particular need in Uganda, I have to look at also how they do business. I was still speaking to my sister friend in South Africa today, and she was telling me, Olori, culture, y'all are different to us. It actually affects business. So you need to learn how the regions you are interested in do business. View other African countries as partners. Remember, I said that, not as competitors. Focus on complementary strengths. What Ghana does well, Nigeria might need, to build networks, not just transactions, okay? Second thing, embrace digital. Embrace digital. You need to use technology to overcome infrastructure gaps. And maybe because I've seen a lot of things that people have left as money on the table. When I say embrace digital, let's get practical. I'm going to give you your digital trade foundation in 2 weeks. Here's what you should do. Okay. Here's what you need to do. I don't know anything. I don't have any. Okay, fine. I'm telling you what to do. Number one, you need to have a consistent brand name online. Okay. A brand name that is online. So start thinking of course, some of you have your websites, some of you have your Twitter, LinkedIn, and all those things. Then ensure that you find somebody who can do SEO optimization for you. It is super important. Super important. All right. You need a professional domain email. If you are sending a proposal, whether via LinkedIn or via email, it can be at gmail.com. All right. Google My Business setup, please do that. Set up your business on Google. It is super crucial. And then trademark in, for some of you who like, you have intellectual property that is attached to what you do, ensure you trademark in key African markets. Still in your week one, open Paystack, Flutterwave accounts so that you can receive, okay? Wise is a multi-currency account that can help you receive in, other currencies. Because a lot of people, and I can tell you about the issues around why a lot of people can't go global yet. They don't think about digital capabilities. And maybe I should focus on that a little bit. All right. Then you need to have a PayPal business profile. A PayPal business profile. PayPal is very strict with Africa. They've only even allowed penetration. I think from Nigeria itself, you can't do it. So you might need to get a VPN so that you can set that up. Again, it's to help your visibility online. Then you now test with international friends. You see all your friends that have jackpot, tell them, look, you will help me do small testing so that they can buy your products in their currency, because multi-currency payment acceptance is one of the things that stops a lot of businesses. So I can see so many entrepreneurs, they have websites, they have e-commerce platforms, but they don't enable it to be able to collect in other currencies. And that is a limitation. You're losing up to about, I think from my last research, you're losing 8 times more revenue than what you could be making, okay? Now, your digital storefront and content authority is a key driver in how you start building your digital footprint. I'll say it again. Your digital storefront, if you are a service provider, it should be easier for you because all you have to do is create a landing page and then ensure that the page is optimized, ensure that people can reach you easily. You put reachable communication forms of how people can actually contact you, okay? Then in the digital storefront, number one, like I said, you've done your website. Now here's where it gets interesting. Ensure you have a mobile first design. Mobile first. Right now, mobile accounts for about over 60% of all e-commerce transactions, meaning that, oh, that's my son, one of my sons when he was much younger. I didn't know that that was on. So, it accounts for 60%, but guess how many businesses in Africa have a mobile version of their businesses? Maybe about 30%. So again, you're leaving money on the table when you don't have a mobile version. Ensure whatever you are doing, whether landing pages, websites, e-commerce platforms, ensure mobile friendly versions. Then I want you to do something because you guys will not believe the next one I'm about to tell you. You need to integrate Instagram shopping and WhatsApp business. Here is why. You will not believe this. Again, because of the AfCFTA and the way trade is changing and how digital trade in particular is opening the continent up to so much more opportunities, it's actually changing the way trade finance is being done. How? I'll tell you. So typically when you want to raise money for your business, say maybe you need some working capital, you need to go to a bank, they will ask you for 3 years audited financials, they'll tell you to go and bring your father's goods, they'll tell you to go and bring your grandmother's heirloom, maybe her necklace that will cost maybe 5 million. They will tell you to bring very unrealistic things, right? They'll just make it very stringent, and that is still the case. But guess what? Companies like Fair Money and Carbon are using your transactions on WhatsApp, your inventory, your customer like relationship management systems, your what else do they use? Your bank transactions to give you credit in 5 seconds. The moment you can provide this, because a lot of you already do business on WhatsApp. So integrate Instagram shopping, WhatsApp business, and then approach companies like Carbon, Fair Money. There are a few other ones. They don't look at audited financials because they are suited to people like you who want to do business on the continent but need capital. So a guy in Kano who has WhatsApp business, he can show his inventory, show the way he's been doing transactions on WhatsApp, all of that, because you can actually get all that information. They would use that to decide how much they can give you, up to 10,000 US dollars. So there are several ways now that your digital storefronts can help you, whether you're a service owner, a provider, or a business provider. Please ensure you have a catalog. So I expect TAAS as an association now, when somebody joins you from the UK, maybe somebody is chatting with them on WhatsApp, maybe you're not a community like TAAS, but you are a service provider, maybe an accountant, and you want to provide accounting services to somebody in Tunisia, you need to have a catalog, a product catalog, a service catalog, also on WhatsApp. For some of you, I know you already have that. Now, in week 2, what you're trying to do here is content authority. It's all part of the game. Share 10 expert posts. 10. Do Monday to Friday, 2 a day. If you are somebody that provides digital services, digital marketing, talk about it, do a video, do carousel, do a B-roll, do AI generated, generative AI. There's just too much in options for you to say no. You can even use behind the scenes content. I'm telling you all the things my team use, right? And I would say like 80% of my team members are not in Nigeria. My accountants are in UK. My digital marketing, they're in Nigeria. I think they're the only ones in Nigeria, actually. Even my EA is not in Nigeria. She's outside the country. I'm showing you how digital the world is. Publish success stories, testimonials. Make sure your content is in English and in other languages, like my YouTube videos now, because that's also part of my digital footprint. My YouTube videos, I called my videographer, Ellie, and I said to her, look, all the ones we are doing in June, from June 1st, it has to be in French. I called my publisher for my just released book. I have a new book on Seller. It's called Man, Man as in, and it's totally not related. So don't worry, focus on what we're doing here. I told them, I said, put them in French. You must have that consideration if you're going to serve the continent. Anglophone and Francophone is what makes up this continent. So why would you miss out? For some of you, maybe you are selling kuli or you sell some agro-allied product. Your instructions must be in English and in French. If it's a consumable, it should be in both. Okay. Let me just make sure I'm good. All right. Sorry, guys. I just wanted to make sure that the team are not talking to me. All right. And so you make sure that local languages, Portuguese, and all these other languages, okay? Now, I don't want to bombard you with more than that, but in case there are people on the call that have done all these things, let's talk about some advanced digital trade strategies. Please, market intelligence. Here's where we are going. Here's where we are going. I need you to join forums and trade publications. Afro-Exim Bank, NASIMA, who are the other ones that we have? NEPC, ECOWAS. There are so many trade publications you need to join so that you know what's happening. You get on-demand news. Join forums like, what do we call it? Lagos Chamber of Commerce. If you're in Abuja, Abuja Chamber of Commerce. There are many chambers of commerce. Women, OWIT, Organization of Women in Trade. For those of you who are women, exporters that are already exporting, exports divisions of Lagos Chamber of Commerce. You need it. So let me share my screen now. But I'll go to the market intelligence. When you've done the first two things I said, which is your digital storefront and content authority, when you're moving into month 2, you are now moving into a bit advanced and you need market intelligence. I'm going to give you a tool that will help you with that. Man, there's so much. My. But I'm going to quickly do this for you. Like I said, set up your payments, your digital presence. Now we're going to move into researching markets. How do you know which countries need what you have? Okay, this is getting exciting. I love teaching this because this is where the real cash starts to look more real. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you based on country to country. I want to believe I have, right? Beautiful. So please let me know when you can see my screen. Guys, you will not believe it, but you will believe it because you are believers. A report just came out 2 days ago. Now, there have been other tools, if I'm being honest, that attempted to do this in a simpler way, but this has finally done it in a simple way for you. What is that? If you want to trade intracontinentally, you need market intelligence. Market intelligence is costly, time-consuming, and complex. In order for you to know what Burundi needs, Kenya, and all that, it's almost like you have to know a lot. But what I'm about to show you has done all the hard work, and they've now simplified it into the products that are export opportunities for Nigerian businesses, country by country in East Africa. Are you clapping or what? All right. So let's go through an example, and I'll make this available. I'll find a way to send it to the TAAS team because it's a lot of insight. Now, let's use this country as an example, Burundi. Or let's look for a more interesting one for you, but it doesn't matter. Let's start with Burundi. Burundi is actually pretty interesting. What they are saying here is that, look, we've done all the analysis in Burundi. Here are the top products that Burundi needs in their own country. Number 1, ginger. You can send ginger to Burundi. They need it. Food preparations. Of course, some of these things you need to read it in depth to understand. Spices, soap for toilet use, beauty, makeup, skincare, sacks and bags of polyethylene for packaging. They need packaging. That's what they are saying. Now, they even do better, and they tell you which areas to look out for when sending to Burundi. For example, it says here for their textile and apparel products, comply with labeling and packaging requirements set by Burundi Bureau of Standards and Quality Control. Ensure that used clothing meets import requirements, fumigation, and country of origin labeling. Everything is here, guys. This tool has made your life, like, you don't have any work of doing anything market intelligence. What you need now is, once you get what you need here, you now go to the authorities in those regions to now, like, if you like, what's the word I want to use? To fast track yourself. So you know, okay, I need to do this in order to enter Burundi. And let me say this, some countries are easier to enter than others. Because we are all Africans does not mean that our regulatory systems are easy. Actually, it's complex. But the good thing here is you have for Ethiopia. Ethiopia is looking for hair products. Look at this: false beards, eyebrows, lashes of synthetics, soap again, preparations for the use of hair. So you see that those of you maybe who are in hair business, you are onto something. Kenya, the Kenya market is looking for oil cake, other solid residues, plants and part of plants, seeds, fruits, crude palm kernel oil, cocoa butter, fat and oil, cocoa powder, chocolates, soybean seed, cashew nuts, turmeric. I mean, guys, can you see that they've done the analysis for you? The analysis is needed so that you know what they need. When you know, you then know how to position for it. So I'll stop sharing my screen now. And I'm going to, because I'm 3 minutes above my time, I'm going to quickly finish with what I said I was going to help you with. 1 second, give me a minute. All right, so let's just go through the last thing for this digital footprint. We've talked about your digital storefront. We've talked about your content authority. We've talked about your digital trade masters. With market intelligence, you can begin to go the advanced route of looking at how to position, whether you're a service entrepreneur or you are a product entrepreneur. As much as possible, start setting up your payment systems, your different ways in which you want to actually get multi-currency from different countries. Then you now begin to launch your campaign. Okay. For some of these things, TAAS may be a better way to penetrate markets because TAAS is a body. So TAAS can be introduced as a reliable source for providing some of the expert products or services that some of you will have. So TAAS will be an aggregator that will now help you into these markets, because sometimes it's easier to go in that sort of body community format than individuals for some countries, not all, but some, and most really. You start looking at this, please. While others are debating policy, you should be trading. While others are waiting, you should be building. And while others are thinking small, you should be thinking global through digital trade. With these few words, I want to thank TAAS again for giving me the opportunity to be able to do this. I know that the world that we were all born into no longer exists, but with God giving you the blueprints that He already has, and your expertise that you've built along the years, some infrastructure here and there with digital, you will definitely get to the promised land. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ma. There's always something about your class that comes with clarity, right? No, since you've been here since 2021, when you just enter Olori, Dr. Olori's class, you're like, hey, there's just something actionable that you have to do. Thank you so much, Ma. Like there are so many things that you said that just shifted my mind, or I would say maybe put me in a very, I think there was more clarity. Let me use that word. Like saying trade is